Howdy folks, Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer, and it's time for another gaming vlog. Let's hit it! Okay, so I have been sick since last Sunday. Today is Friday. You might still be able to hear it in my voice. So this video, I'm not using a script. I'm just going to tell you guys what's been going on gaming-wise with me, with the vlog, with the D&D campaign and the Pathfinder campaign and video game stuff that I've been doing. And I'm going to, try and get as much as I can in here. And if my voice cooperates, then we'll be good to go. So, number one, let's start off with the D&D First Edition. AD&D, excuse me, AD&D First Edition that I'm doing back here. Where I left off with you guys, I believe that our group of adventurers had just escaped the island from the module treasure hunt, which I showed before, and they were aboard the galley, the ship that is on the island that they find to get off. And so they had to make a trek of about 9 days to get back to the city of Devers, is where they were going, because the NPC that they had found, that they had been on the ship with, named Melisana, her father was not offering, but she assured them that he would pay them a reward when they got back and returned her back to him. So they make the trek back without very much incident. They saw a pirate ship at one point, but I rolled for it. The pirates either didn't notice them or didn't care because it was a very small ship that they were on. And then they nearly hit a reef, but they were able to avoid it. And they spotted some narwhals along the way. And that was all randomly generated. I used that book. It's a second edition book called Of Ships and Sea that has those rules and everything in it. So that's what I was using for those encounters. So they luckily made it back basically unscathed to Devers. And true to her word, her father... turns out he is the president of the dock workers union in the city of Devers. And anybody that knows Greyhawk knows that Devers is a very, very large seaport city. They're right on the near Div, the lake near Div, and so they're kind of centrally located. So a lot of trade goes through the city of Devers. And so they have a large dock, a lot of dock workers, and her father happens to be the president of the dock workers union. In addition, he also owns the city's magic shop. He is a fairly high-level magic user, and he owns the magic shop. He does, enchantments where he can recharge people's magic items, that type of thing, identify items, and he also has a shop where they sell components and potions and that type of stuff. So, upon arrival, he is overjoyed, of course, to be reunited with Melisana, and he gives them a 2,000, I think it was 2,000 gold reward. Yeah, it was 2,000 gold reward. But in addition, he says that he will put them up in the local tavern, the Bloody Scabbard, on his dime, until they feel, rested and recuperated enough to go off and do other things. And the Bloody Scabbard is based upon the first time I DM'd this, is a now world famous in the world of Greyhawk in my campaign. It's a world famous tavern because of the proprietor, whose name is Oak, is a very large human barbarian that is retired from from adventuring. He's got a lot of scars and everything, but the guy's like 6'8", just a massive dude. But he couldn't be a nicer innkeeper. Him and his wife, and he's got some other people that work for him. And the tavern itself is very impressive because you have the normal building of a tavern, and then for some reason you have, on the sides, you have 2 towers, one on each side of the tavern, which appear to, it's pretty obvious that they've been added on. And the story is that the first group of adventurers that I put through this campaign, who became known as the Seekers, they built those 2 additions for Oak onto the tavern because of his hospitality and the help that he offered them whenever they would come back to rest and recuperate. He was very well taken care of by the Seekers. And our new party finds out that the Seekers had basically had retired also from adventuring after my campaign. And most of them, if not all of them, are now residents here in Devers and in different capacities. They do different things. And they've met most of them, I believe, in this last episode here. They've met most of them. So there is that continuing story arc. I'm taking back up where my first group, the Seekers, 20 years ago when I was doing this in California with the first group, I'm continuing them now, who were player characters. They are now NPCs in this campaign. So their story will continue as NPCs now, and their interactions so far with our new group have been very good so far. It's been very entertaining. So basically, everybody gets back. They start to rest and recuperate. The female dwarf in our party is the one who I said they're all their family members who had been captured because they had located some kind of object that there was a group that wanted it very badly, and they captured their family members first, and then in order to try and use them as leverage to get those people to talk, they kidnapped our group, all of them, because they were all related to them. And the idea was, if they had gotten them back to wherever they were going, before they got shipwrecked on the island, they would have used them as leverage to get the other people to talk about this item. And of course we had found out that the female dwarf, that her family member, unfortunately, during his interrogation had died. And now all the other family members were saying, oh, well, yeah, it was him. He had the item that you're looking for. And of course, the people that are interrogating are saying, oh, well, yeah, it's easy to try and pin it on him now. He's dead. He has no way to refute that. So that's easy to just put the focus on him. So as a result, they kidnapped all of our party to try and use them as leverage. So now that they're all back in Devers, and their family members, with the exception of the dwarf, their family members are all supposedly held captive someplace, that we believe. We know that the dwarf's family member, which was her uncle, he had given her a note at some point, not too long before she got captured. He had given her a note and told her to keep it safe and only open it if she knew he had met his demise. So while the rest of the group is now in Devers, she has decided to take the same ship that they had brought Melisana on, and Esmus, who is Melisana's father, also agreed to send some shipmates with her to help her sail back to her home to retrieve that note. It kind of worked out because the actual player for that character, that female dwarf, she didn't make it to the game last week. So it just made it easier to just say, okay, she's going to go back and retrieve that from her home. And then we continued with the other folks. So the other folks basically spent their time in Devers learning the city, selling some of the goods that they had looted, and then training to become legit first level in each of their professions. So that's where we're at. And there was some other stuff that was there was a subplot that was discovered about a member of the Seekers who had, in the original campaign, had killed another party member because a dispute broke out between two of them, and he ended up killing one of them. That person's brother has come back now, and is trying to figure out if he can hire our new group, to seek revenge upon that party member. So that's a little subplot that's happening right now as well. So that's all going on in the first edition campaign. We're going to play tonight. If my voice holds up, we'll have a good session. I hope I can make it all the way through. Hopefully tonight then we'll find out what's in that note that the dwarf had to go retrieve. Gotta wet the whistle here a little bit. I'm drinking only like hot water is what I'm drinking to help the throat. So then in the Pathfinder campaign, we had left off that we, which I'm a player in, we had fought this oceanic boss type creature that was building constructs to try and control townfolk and so forth. We had gone down and we had fought him successfully. That's where we left off last time. So since in the last episode we went back to the town, made sure everything was good to go now, the threat had been taken care of, and we sailed on to another point of interest. One of our party members had been given a map of points of interest because we're looking for these stones throughout the realm, and somebody said, well, here's a map of these points of interest, and perhaps some of them are located at those points of interest and whatnot. So we've been going basically along the map to try and find those. So we go to another one in this latest episode, and it is a fortress city. There's a huge military fortress is the center point of the town, and there's little buildings and so forth around it, a tavern and some shops and that type of thing. But basically the main part of the city is just this big fortress. And it turns out that all of the menfolk they're all in the army or serving at the fortress, and they've been on lockdown for something like a month, and none of the females in the town have been able to see their husbands. And so that piques our interest, and we do some recon and some questioning, and we find out that there's a lot of horse-drawn carts coming out of the fortress, but not a bunch going in. Only one per week is deliveries going in, but a bunch of carts are coming out. And there's been deforestation around the fortress. A lot of trees have been cut down and so forth, so it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out. Well, it sounds like they're building carts to take something out of this place, because there's, just doing the math, if there's only one coming in a week, and then you've got all these carts coming out daily out of here, something doesn't make sense. So I decide, I'm playing a rogue in that campaign, to climb up a tree and wait for one of these carts that's leaving to come out, and the idea is I will try to jump down on it and look inside and see what they're taking out. Unfortunately, the wagon comes out, and it is not just covered with like a tarp or anything, it's completely sealed. It's like a box. So there's no way of, really, it's just a wooden box. And there's no way to really see by jumping on top of it to see what's in there. So I make the decision, and one of our other party members, I see him down the road behind where the cart had come out, and I decide, at the snap decision, I just said, okay, I'm just going to jump down, and I'm going to climb down, and then I'm going to, as the cart's passing, I'm going to try and do an acrobatic move to jump out and pretend that I got ran over by the cart. So I jump out in between the wheels and start screaming like I've got run over by the cart, and we're trying to convince the guards and so forth, and we're doing bluff checks and all this other stuff. And my party member, I'm hoping that while I've got them distracted, he can come up and maybe try to get the back of it open or something and look inside. But he comes up and he's completely oblivious as to what my ruse is. So he just starts saying, "Hey, are you okay? You are, And so I made another snap decision. I said, well, I'm going to try while we're, parlaying with these guys. I'm going to try and look and see if I can see in any cracks between the wood or anything to see if I can see what's in there. And I said, in addition, I want to make sure and stand real close to it and take a good whiff and see if I can smell anything coming out of there. And sure enough, the DM says, well, yeah, considering that you said that, you smell what is unmistakably the smell of fresh earth, of almost like wet, earth, wet dirt, wet soil. So I said, okay. So that kind of convinced me that, yeah, indeed, they are excavating inside this fortress. They found something, and they're taking all this dirt, because that's what I thought. Well, if all these carts are going out, they got to be taking a bunch of dirt out, and they're cutting down the trees to make more carts to get the dirt out. So we go back, we recoup, go back and decide we're going to do a recon inside. So they cast spider climb and invisibility on me. I jump over the wall, go down, and sure enough, I find an entrance, a tunnel entrance, where the jail cells are inside the fortress. So I come back out and I'm like, yeah, there's a tunnel entrance down there. So, and I said, by the way, also, all the guards kind of look the same, very similar. Something very strange about that. And they're all wearing these same rings. So the whole group, we all get together and decide, okay, we're gonna do a mass invisibility type thing, climb up and over and get down to that tunnel. So we do, and some of us disguise, and some of us are invisible and so forth, and we make it down, and we find like the foreman's office, and once we get down there, we see that it's all drow, or drow, however you guys like to say. I usually say drow, but I think some people say drow, and they're probably right. Anyway, so we find a bunch of drow down there working, and we figure out, well, they're creating an entrance to the Underdark, is what they're doing. So we go into the office with the foreman, we get in there, and he starts questioning us, and it becomes blatantly obvious that whatever ruse we try to pull off, he ain't going to buy it. There ain't no way we're going to talk our way out of this. So I just decide, to hell with it. I'm going to try and kill this dude. So I pull out my dagger in a fell swoop and try a surprise attack, hoping, and it's got poison on it, hoping that I'm going to catch him in the jugular or something like that. And of course I miss. I roll and I miss. So then the battle is on, and this dude is a bad dude. I think he's a war priest, is what they said. In Pathfinder, I'm not familiar with the war priest class, but apparently they're pretty badass. So we're trying everything we can, and we're fighting his guards, and then there's more people trying to get in the door, and I'm like, lock the door, please. Telling one of our other party members, please lock the door so no more can come in. And we ended up stopping. The fight was going on so long, we ended up having to stop, because it was like, we usually stop at 10, and I think we stopped at 11, and it was New Year's Eve. So the wife wanted me to spend New Year's Eve with the ball dropping and all that with her. So it was like we had to stop. So we're in mid-battle in that campaign, fighting this drow war priest. That's where we're at there. So that's for the tabletop role-playing stuff. One second. The throat's giving out. So that's where we are on the tabletop role-playing stuff. And then lastly, what I wanted to talk about was the Steam sale, the holiday Steam sale. I picked up quite a few games. Was gifted Far Cry Primal by one of our friends back here. And then I was gifted another game, and I can't remember what that one was. I was gifted 2 games. Far Cry Primal, and Black Mesa. And I had already mentioned Black Mesa before. I think I got that before the last video. In addition to that, I picked up Subnautica, because I'd had a lot of people tell me that Subnautica was a fantastic survival game. And they're right. It's an early access game. So there are a lot of cautions that I have to give you. I found out after putting a bunch of hours into it that every time there's an update, it can corrupt your save game and you have to start over. There is a way to avoid that. There's actually a video on their website on what you have to go into the files and do a bunch of manipulation with the files to protect yourself from that. But because it's early access, it does do that. So, but basically, you're on a spaceship when it starts out, and you have to get into an escape pod because the ship is crashing, and you get launched out, and you land in the ocean with your escape pod, and you're out in the middle of the ocean, just you and your escape pod, and you have a fabricator on board, which is, in my opinion, is probably what things will be like in the future, probably 50 years from now, how we have 3D printers now. And basically, it'll just be a more advanced version of a 3D printer, and you will put certain, components in there, and it will fabricate the item you want just based upon that. And that's basically what you do in this game to make things. And you can actually build underwater structures and all that. And you have to. I do survival mode, where you gotta make sure and keep eating and drinking regularly to maintain your strength and everything. And I won't give away, any more than that, other than to say it was on sale. It was like $11, and so I had to get it because everybody had been telling me about it. And it is well worth the money. And the regular price, I think, is $19.99. I think it's $20. I think at $20 it's easy. I mean, it's well worth the money. So if you haven't tried Subnautica, I highly recommend it. So and Far Cry Primal, that I have yet to dive completely into that, because I could already tell from the hours I have put into it that I need to be able to dedicate some time to do that properly. It is a lot of fun, and it's challenging as well. So this has been a long video, but I needed to get caught up on a lot of stuff because we're going to be playing again tonight, and I didn't want to get too far behind. So there you guys go. I hope you stuck with me all the way. We will catch you guys on the flip side.